Dialogue.
It's May Day in Dakar, 1 o'clock in Porto Novo. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Former Senegalese President Macky Sall files lawsuit against X over false information. The Gambia's draft constitution arrives at the National Assembly for first reading.
The Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia, Promulgation Bill 2024.
Honorable members, the bill has been read a first time.
75 million Nigerians to receive $33 every month as government's measure of curbing hardships in the country. And mixed reaction trails the Guinean government's latest position on the disappearance of activists Menge and Biloba.
So for us, the minister is totally right. You admit that his government is unable to ensure the safety of citizens and their rights.
Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Augustine Colley with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and welcome to our listeners in the sub-region and beyond. This edition begins right here in Senegal as former Senegalese President Macky Sall has filed a complaint against X before the public prosecutor at the High Court of Dakar. This follows the publication a few days ago on social networks of a bank account statement that allegedly belongs to him. Bassirou Diomaye Faye's predecessor says he is determined to counter any kind of disinformation about him. More details by Christopher Aticho.
The information of a fake bank statement worth $1 billion attributed to former Senegalese President Macky Sall has been widely circulated on social media. The information was shared a week ago. Immediately after the document was published by internet users, the verification service of the Senegalese National Daily, Lesoli, provided clarifications. After contacting officials of the HSBC, Singapore, the bank listed on the document, they denied the allegations. It was the day after these events that Macky Sall's lawyer announced in an interview with a colleague at Jeune Afrique that his client had filed a complaint against X before the public prosecutor at the Dakar High Court. It was the day after these events that Macky Sall's lawyer announced in an interview with a colleague at Jeune Afrique that his client had filed a complaint against X before the public prosecutor at the Dakar High Court, a complaint for forgery and the use of forgery and defamation. According to Mr. Antoine Vin, this is the first step in a broader strategy to counter disinformation. He adds that his client Macky Sall, and I quote, is determined not to let anything go any further. End of quote.
And that was Demba Ama-An's report voiced by Christopher Aticho. The Gambian government has officially tabled the much-awaited 2024 draft constitution before the National Assembly for the first reading after it was gazetted in August this year. The new draft aims to replace the current 1997 constitution, which has been a source of controversies and calls for reforms in recent years. Our Banjul correspondent, Sankula Janko, tells us more in this report.
The 2024 draft constitution comes after the surprise rejection of the 2020 draft, which had adequate public consultations and widespread public support. In a brief parliamentary proceedings on Monday, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Daouda Jallow, presented the 2024 Constitution Promulgation Bill for the first reading. Fabakary Tombonjata is the Speaker of the National Assembly of the Gambia.
The Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia, Promulgation Bill 2024.
Honorable members, the bill has been read a first time.
The Speaker further explained the parliamentary proceedings to be taken ahead of this second reading.
The next stage of the Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia, Promulgation Bill 2024, will be appointed during the next ordinary session for the person in charge of the bill to move a motion for the second reading in accordance with Order 66-2 which reads, at the conclusion of the proceedings on the first reading or on any subsequent stage of a bill, the next stage may be taken earlier, either forthwith or upon a date to be named, providing that second reading shall be taken no sooner than 1 working day after the first reading.
At the scrutiny stage of the second reading, National Assembly members will get the chance to thoroughly scrutinize the bill for either approval or rejection. Now, as the new draft is presented, the country's leadership hopes to fulfill promises made to deliver a new constitution. However, the 2024 draft has already sparked divergent opinions, with many Gambians arguing that the document lacks sufficient public consultation, even as critics say that key segments of society were not adequately engaged in its formulation. For Newslink, West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sankule Janko reporting from Banjul.
Over to Guinea, where the Ministry of Justice provides details on the identity of people who allegedly kidnapped activists Fonike Menge and Biloba. According to the Minister of Justice, these two leaders of the FNDC, the National Front for the Defense of the Constitution, were kidnapped by thugs dressed in military uniforms. During an interview on national television about the situation, the Minister of Justice said these kidnappings and uprisings have no link with the Guinean army, adding that individuals camouflage themselves in clothes to commit their crimes that people attribute to the Guinean military. However, his statement does not satisfy the opposition political parties and civil society organizations in Guinea.
Donc pour nous, le ministre a totalement raison.
So for us, the minister is totally right. You admit that his government is unable to ensure the safety of citizens and their rights, and to show that his government refuses to respect the normal arresting procedures. So all that will happen, those will be responsible, and they will realize the moment.
He's Abdoulaye Omuso, responsible for communication at the level of the FNDC in Guinea. Let's talk about road safety in Cote d'Ivoire, where the government is taking rigorous measures to strengthen safety on the country's roads after a series of incidents that caused 71 deaths and 44 injuries since August 2024. The government announces the reinforcement of road checks through the extension of video verbalization, but also through the intensification of physical checks on main roads. The supervision of minibuses will also be carried out, in particular with the strict regulation of mass-type vehicles for intercity joinings. According to Omar Sakol, Director General of Land Transport and Traffic, the measure would also involve training drivers and mechanics through an upgrade to allow them to learn more about technological advances and ensure proper maintenance of their vehicles. Omar stated that the causes of accidents include the excess number of passengers or the mechanical condition of the vehicles.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Crossing over to the Sahel region, particularly in Mali, where Issa Kawu Njim appeared in court on Monday, more than a month after being placed in custody. The former vice president of the National Transitional Council is accused of insulting Captain Ibrahim Traoré, president of Burkina Faso, during a debate on the Joliba TV news channel. The verdict of his trial is set for December 30th this year. Here is Bamako correspondent Aliyu Cham's report, voiced by Abdullahi Hassan.
Before the prosecutor of the Specialized Cybercrime Unit, Issa Kawu, pleaded not guilty to the charges against him. According to him, these remarks were misinterpreted and that he had never quoted the Burkinabe president, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Publicly apologizing for any misunderstanding, the politician nevertheless insisted on the need for critical debate in the media. Imprisoned for more than a month, Issa Kawu Njim is accused of insulting a foreign head of state and of insulting through information systems. The former vice president of the National Transitional Council, NTC, had also expressed doubts about the veracity of the last coup attempt in Burkina Faso during a debate on Joliba TV News. Contacted by WADR, his lawyer did not respond to our requests. Furthermore, Malian political actors as well as human rights organizations such as Amnesty International have denounced an attack on freedom of expression. The verdict of his trial is set for December 30, 2024.
That was Bamako correspondent Aliyu Cham's report, voiced by Abdullahi Hassan. Away from the Sahel, the Nigerian government has launched a 25,000 naira or $33 cash transfer scheme targeted at 15 million households, aiming to support roughly 75 million Nigerians. According to the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, each household will receive 25,000 naira, equivalent to about $33 per month, distributed 3 times a year. In this report, WADR's Usma Umar captures how many economists and citizens alike have been reacting to this development.
The initiative, part of President Bola Tinubu's economic relief efforts, assumes an average household size of 5 people. Breaking it down, each individual will benefit from approximately $6.60 monthly or $19.80 per year. Figures critics say are adequate given the current cost of living in Nigeria. Alesta Wilcox is an economic affairs analyst, while Baba Yusuf is a policy analyst.
There's no side that can do away with some support for the vulnerable. It's alert everywhere in the world. But the problem I'm having is how it is done in Nigeria. The quality of the data used in Nigeria to identify households that should require such assistance is what I'm quarreling with.
I think this 35,000 naira is just a tactic. There's a need to restructure this economy. And while we're at it, I am one of those that is a proponent of Mr. President sitting down to look at the overall strategy and time. These knee-jerk impulsive activities will not be sustainable.
On the streets, public opinions also reflect sentiments about the program and its monetary value.
With this present economy, I'm not seeing any wisdom in it. Whoever that designed that policy and whatever they want to achieve from it is dead on arrival, because this is not the first time, and the poverty has never even reduced in Nigeria. The index is increasing.
Well, I don't think it will solve the problem, because at the end of the day, the people that are going to benefit from it will not get enough. And not having enough will not be able, as in they won't be able to do enough as well. But if you are able to select maybe fewer people, then give them a reasonable amount of money. Let them go and invest into business that they can do.
So far, the government reports reaching 5 million individuals. However, progress has been hindered by challenges in sanitizing the social register, a requirement tied to the Central Bank of Nigeria's digital identity mandate. The scheme also focuses on women as household heads, given their critical role as caregivers. As inflation continues to erode purchasing power, the question remains, can such an initiative truly alleviate economic hardship, or is it merely a temporary band-aid? For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Now to Ghana, following what has become a monumental and historic defeat of the ruling NPP government, the national leadership of the party has set out to perform a forensic exercise on what happened and how they can avoid such mistakes in the future. Addressing the media in Accra on Monday, the national chairman of the NPP, Stephen Ntim, said that the party has been shocked by the outcome of the 2024 general elections.
The leadership of the NPP went into the 2024 general elections with a lot of hope and positivity. Our aim was to secure an emphatic victory at the polls, and we worked very hard at it. As a party, we put in our best efforts in the campaign. There is no doubt that the outcome of the elections was not what we hoped for. We may not have won the battle, but we haven't lost the war on the quest for a better Ghana, shaped by the ideals and philosophies of the New Patriotic Party. We share in the pain of all party faithful who have been devastated by the outcome of the elections. We understand your disappointments because we feel it too. As a party that was formed by individuals from all sectors of our society who are motivated by the ideals of development and freedom, we seek to grow the individual liberties of our people by growing a strong democracy, the party will, in the months of January 2025, set up an effective and objective election review committee to undertake a post-mortem into the outcome of the election. The committee will engage all party stakeholders and the general public on the factors and circumstances leading to our defeat. We have a firm belief that the work of the election review committee will enable our people to express their concerns and to bring out suggestions and reforms, changes, and other critical issues necessary to restructuring our party.
Stephen Ntim is the national chairman of the ruling political party in Ghana, the New Patriotic Party, that just lost the election to the National Democratic Congress. You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM in Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of the top stories. Former Senegalese President Macky Sall files lawsuit against X over false information. The Gambia's draft constitution arrives at the National Assembly for first reading. 75 million Nigerians to receive $33 every month as government's measure of curbing hardships in the country. Still ahead in the news, in Chad, standoff between the online press and the Media Regulatory Authority continues. We also have the press review, guest interview, and the sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for staying with us. That's a reminder, we broadcast live on YouTube at WADR News and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Let's now go to Chad, where the standoff between the online press and the Media Regulatory Authority, HAMA, continues. 6 days before the legislative elections, the private media of the written, radio, and online press declared a day without press on Monday. They intend to renew this slogan on Tuesday and boycott the electoral campaign, which is due to end on December 27. Nassisi Lanjam is a Chadian journalist, one of the organizers of this day without the press, and he spoke with WADR in N'Djamena.
On attend la dernière action, c'est d'aller d'abord restituer les badges, restituer les gilets et autres à la Hama et on verra ce qui va se passer. Parce que jusque-là, du côté de la Hama, c'est le...
We are waiting for the final action, which is to go and get the subjects, the badges, the vests and others at Hama, and we will see what happens. Because so far, on the side of Hama, there has been complete silence. Hama has not reacted or taken any position regarding what has happened, but we will continue the fight in the coming days. If Hama is not involved, I think the fight will continue in 4 to 5 days. That will be the end of the campaign. So we will impose a total blackout on the campaign coverage, which is really a loss for the citizens. The citizens are not following at all what is happening on the ground. They are not following the messages of the different candidates in the various elections I just mentioned. So it is unfortunate for a democratic country. It is very unfortunate.
C'est quand même malheureux pour un pays démocratique, c'est très malheureux.
A strike a few days before legislative, communal and provincial elections, as you said, scheduled for December 29th. But knowing that the media represent a democracy, doesn't it create paralysis for the upcoming elections?
Ça serait une triste réalité.
It will be a tragedy because since the beginning of the campaign, the media has not covered it at all. And it is really a loss. It is truly deplorable. It is very lamentable for the establishment of our young democracy. It is very sad for the country that it organizes media regulations and behaves in this manner.
You just heard the voice of Nassisi Lanjam, a Chadian journalist who is leading a day without the press in Chad.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
We now join WADR's Grace Joshua in the Liberian capital, Monrovia, for the press review.
For today's edition of the press review, papers we are following are the Front Page African newspaper, the Daily Observer newspaper, and the New Dawn newspaper. On the front page of the New Dawn newspaper, this story says, Liberia honor best teacher administrator. The government of China donates 200,000 helmets through the Liberia National Police. Government support low-lying rest project in Bon County. Still on the New Dawn newspaper, this one says, woman killed husband in plastic fight. I bring you a part of that story. A 63-year-old woman known as Esther Janet has reportedly killed her husband in Magibi County during a brutal fight over a strong alcoholic drink called plastic. On the front page of the Daily Observer newspaper, LCAA hold extraordinary talk with Turkey Airline. I bring you a part of that story. The Liberia Civil Aviation Authority has hosted a delegation from Turkish Airline for discussion on the potential for airline to commence scheduled flights to Liberia. Supreme Court hot trial of 12 and others. I bring you a part of that story. The Supreme Court has issued a temporary stay order on the trial involving former Finance Minister Samuel Tuah and his co-defendant, facing multiple charges, including economic sabotage. This decision came after a request from the Ministry of Justice to disqualify one of 12 lawyers. This one said former Justice Janet in order to challenge the 2025 draft national budget. I bring you a part of that story. Associate Justice Kabina M. Janet says he is mobilizing lawyers to challenge the legitimacy of the 2025 national budget in court. That is how we come to our end of today's edition of the press review. I'm Grace Joshua in Monrovia.
Thank you, Grace Joshua, for the press review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
This segment of Newslink takes us back to the Gambia, where the government has officially tabled the much-anticipated 2024 draft constitution before the National Assembly for the first reading after it was gazetted in August this year. The new draft aims to replace the current 1997 constitution, which has been a source of controversies and calls for reforms in recent years. Our guest is Maji Sise, the chairman of the Constitutional Committee in the Gambian Parliament.
Well, I would see it as perhaps just a way of government trying to satisfy some donors. They are really not doing the right thing, because the draft constitution that is just read before the parliament for the first reading was just cosmetic. And it is a draft that is not really well consulted. The people are not well consulted, as opposed to the 2020 draft that was really a well consultative draft. I would have thought that government, yes, when they met as a cabinet and did what they did on the 2020 draft to form what is called the 2024 draft, I thought they would have thrown this back to the people for people's reaction so that they can accommodate all the divergent views on it.
You seem to be very concerned about this. Would you mind telling us what are the contentious clauses that you think will really hamper the passage of this constitution?
One is the issue of empowering the president to nominate 5 people, and out of those 5 people, you have the speaker and the deputy speaker. This is a very contentious clause. What we have seen recently in the National Assembly is the 5 nominated members plus the government's the president's elected members. That's automatic, because he is the one who handpicks them, and they are occupying key positions in the parliament. The speaker and the deputy speaker comes from nominated members, while elected members sit and these 2 people will decide. That is very contentious. I would not like to see a constitution passed with empowering the president to nominate 5 people, and out of the 5, you have the speaker and deputy speaker from those 5 people. I, as an elected member, would not allow that to happen. That's one of the contentious positions there. The other contentious positions are the key positions in government. the generals, the auditor generals, the inspector generals, the accountant generals, these generals' appointments should be subject to parliamentary approval. It was in the draft. They remove it and bring it back in the 2024 constitution. It is also another concern.
What's happening now in terms of lobbying to ensure whether or not this draft constitution is not passed, maybe for second reading or in totality?
The only thing I think, in my opinion, that could have been done is for government to retrieve the 2020 draft and subject it to popular consultation.
Mahdi Cisse is the chairman of the Constitutional Committee in the Gambian Parliament. And here is Sankule Janko with sports.
Hello there, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. The third round of the Total Energies CAF Champions League group stage delivered thrilling encounters, laid drama and decisive victories across the continent. From Al Ahly's stunning win in Algiers to Esperance Tunis' dominance in Reds, the matches showcased Africa's elite clubs battling for crucial points at the half stage of the competition. South Africa's Mamelodi Sundowns secured their first win, while Orlando Pirates maintained their grip in Group C despite being held to a draw. Group D saw Esperance Tunis take command with an impressive victory over Pyramids, while a goalless draw between Joliba and Sagrada kept things tight. Meanwhile, reigning champions Al Ahly delivered the largest scoreline of the competition's group stage so far after a 6-1 win over Algiers' CR Belouizdad. With the group standings taking shape, the race for knockout qualification intensifies as teams prepare for the decisive second half of the campaign. And in basketball, the Basketball Africa League Bowl will host the Combine in Rabat for second consecutive year from Friday 10 January to Sunday 12 January 2025. The 3-day scouting event, which will be held at the Ibn Yassin Omni Sports Hall, will feature more than 30 aspiring players from Africa, Europe and US and around the world taking part in anthropometric and athletic testing, positional skill development and 5-on-5 games in front of team executives, coaches and scouts. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maouda Ju for the technical support. The second edition of our comprehensive news bulletin in French, which is Info Chez Vous, will come your way at 1 p.m. with Mustafa Jakite. Until then, continue to interact with us via our social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. I am Augustine Cully. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via